Accountability is one of those things people run from because it don't come with applause, it don't feel good, and it don't flatter the ego. It's the mirror you don't want to look into, the truth you don't want to hear, the work you don't want to do. But it's the one ingredient that separates people who grow from people who stay stuck. Entitlement is the opposite. Entitlement tells you the world owes you something just because you exist. Accountability tells you the world owes you nothing, but it will pay you exactly what you earn. And that's the reality most people, especially in this generation, struggle to accept. See, entitlement is comfortable. It lets you blame everybody but yourself. It lets you point fingers instead of studying your own patterns. It lets you feel important without producing anything. But all that comfort does is keep you stagnant. It tricks you into thinking you're being overlooked, when the truth is you haven't built anything worth noticing yet. Accountability is uncomfortable, but it elevates you. It forces you to sit with your decisions, your habits, your flaws, and your contradictions. It forces you to realize you can't change your life with excuses. You change it with execution. A lot of people out here want outcomes they haven't earned. They want respect without discipline. They want success without sacrifice. They want loyalty without offering stability. They want a king or queen treatment while putting in peasant effort. And then they get angry at the world for not responding to their demands. But life don't respond to demands. It responds to value. It responds to consistency. It responds to the work you put in when nobody's watching. The world rewards those who take ownership, not those who complain the loudest. Accountability is power. Once you stop blaming the world, once you stop blaming your past, once you stop blaming other people, something shifts inside you. You stop waiting for life to change, and you start changing yourself. You stop expecting a rescue, and you start building your escape. You stop whining about what didn't happen and start focusing on what you can create going forward. That's when your life stops being random and starts becoming intentional. That's when doors open, because you're not asking for permission. You're showing up with preparation. Entitlement clouds your vision. It makes you focus on what you think you deserve instead of what you're actually producing. It convinces you that someone else's success is oppression. It makes you bitter instead of better. Accountability clears your vision. It shows you where you need to grow. It reveals the habits that are costing you opportunities. It exposes the patterns you repeat that keep leading to the same outcomes. It gives you control because you realize the only person standing between you and elevation is the person in the mirror. Most people avoid accountability because it makes them feel uncomfortable. But growth lives in discomfort. Nothing evolves when it's protected from pressure. Diamonds need pressure. Muscles need resistance. Character needs responsibility. If you spend your whole life running from accountability, you live your whole life running from greatness. If you cling to entitlement, you stay small. If you embrace responsibility, you expand. When you really mature, you stop saying, "Why me?" You stop saying, "Try me." You stop saying, "I deserve more." You start saying, "Let me become more." You stop waiting for someone to hand you opportunities. You start creating your own lane. That's what accountability does. It gives you your power back. It puts you in the driver's seat of your own story. It forces you to level up, to sharpen your mindset, to take control of your thoughts, your choices, and your direction. And when you start doing that, life responds differently. People treat you differently. Opportunities recognize you. Respect follows you. Entitlement wants the world to change first. Accountability changes you first. And when you change you, the world has no choice but to adjust. That's the difference. That's the elevation. That's the truth people don't like to hear, but need to live by. Respect is one of those things people love to demand, but hate to uphold. Everybody wants it. Everybody talks about it. Everybody says they deserve it, but very few are willing to give it in the same breath. And that's the problem. Respect was never designed to be a one-way street. It's an exchange, a mirror, a reflection of who you choose to be and how you choose to move. The moment you think you're entitled to it without offering anything back, you already broke the laws that protect it. A lot of people walk around with this mindset that respect should just fall in their lap, that just because you exist, just because you feel a certain way, just because you see yourself as valuable, the world should automatically treat you a certain way. But that's not how life works, and that's not how people operate. Respect comes from the energy you carry, from the way you talk to people, the way you handle pressure, the way you treat situations that don't benefit you. Respect shows up in how you speak when you're angry, how you act when you're disappointed, how you behave when nobody is watching to applaud the performance. You can't demand respect while being reckless, inconsistent, or disrespectful yourself. People ain't blind. They respond to what you show them, not what you announce. If your energy is messy, your tone is sharp, your pride is loud, and your humility is silent, the world has no reason to treat you with anything but distance. Respect is mutual. It's earned, not handed out like samples. You don't get it because you want it. You get it because you operate in a way that makes people want to give it to you. And let's be real, a lot of conflict, heartbreak, and disappointment in life comes from people expecting special treatment without offering solid behavior. You can't talk down on people and expect them to lift you up. You can't play selfish and expect someone to treat you with generosity. You can't move with entitlement and expect loyalty. Every relationship, friendships, business, family, relationships is shaped by how both sides show up. When one person wants to receive without giving, or dominate without listening, or be adored without reciprocating, the balance breaks. Respect is built through consistency, through how you show up even when you're tired, through how you listen even when you disagree, through how you stay grounded even when you feel challenged. Respect grows when your actions match your words, when your character stays the same in every room, when you don't switch up depending on who you're around or what mood you're in. And you want to know the real truth. The quickest way to lose respect is to demand it louder than you demonstrate it. The loudest ones usually lack it. The solid ones don't speak on it. They move in a way that makes it automatic. It's not the talk that earns you respect, it's the walk. It's the patience. It's the discipline to not act out when life tests you. It's the ability to say less and do more. To stay real even when being fake would be easier. A lot of people think respect means controlling others, intimidating others, or being the one with the final word. But real respect comes from influence, not force. From trust, not fear. From understanding, not arrogance. You earn it by being someone people feel safe around, someone people can count on, someone whose principles don't shift with the wind. Respect is mutual because it's a reflection of balance. If you give it freely and consistently, you'll get it naturally. If you give it selectively based on convenience or mood, you'll receive the same inconsistency back. The universe keeps score, whether you acknowledge it or not. So if you want respect, give people something to respect. Move with integrity. Move with intention. Stand on your values without stepping on others. Treat people with dignity, even when it costs you your pride. Speak with purpose, not ego. Listen to understand, not to win. And carry yourself like someone who understands that respect is a form of currency. Powerful, valuable, and always earned through action. When you embrace that truth, you stop demanding respect and start attracting it. You stop chasing validation and start receiving recognition. You stop feeling overlooked because your energy speaks before you even open your mouth. Respect is mutual, not automatic. And once you move with that mindset, your relationships strengthen, your circle gets healthier, and your life aligns with a different level of peace and power. Reality don't care how you feel. It don't pause because you're hurt. It don't shift because you're angry. It don't bend because something didn't go your way. Reality moves on its own timing, its own structure, its own truth. And the sooner you learn that, the sooner life starts making sense. Feelings are valid, but they're not facts. They're experiences, not instructions. They tell you where you are emotionally, but they don't change where you stand in life. A lot of people get stuck because they try to negotiate with reality like it's supposed to adjust to their emotions. They think being offended makes the truth disappear. They think being uncomfortable makes the lesson optional. They think crying, complaining, or demanding should reroute the outcome. But life don't operate off sensitivity. It operates off structure. And the world is not built around your comfort zone. It's built around cause, effect, discipline, and truth. You can be mad at the mirror, but the reflection don't change. You can dislike the truth, but it still stands. You can avoid the consequences, but they still arrive. And that's the part people don't want to accept, because accepting it means letting go of excuses. It means letting go of blame. It means acknowledging that life is responding to your actions, not your emotions. It means the work you didn't do is the reason you don't have what you want. That's a hard pill to swallow, but it's the only one that heals. Feelings are temporary. They rise, fall, shift, react. They get loud, then they fade. But the decisions you make while emotional, those last. The opportunities you lose because you move from impulse instead of discipline, those matter. The relationships you damage because you wanted to be right instead of understanding, those consequences stick. One moment of emotion can cost years of progress. Reality is the scoreboard that don't lie. It shows your habits, your choices, your consistency, your truth. You want to know who you are? Look at your results. Look at your patterns. Look at the life you built, not the one you imagine. Feelings can convince you that you're doing more than you are. Reality tells you exactly where you stand. And a lot of people confuse being emotional with being deep. They confuse being loud with being strong. They confuse taking things personal with taking responsibility. But growth begins where emotional reactions end. When you stop trying to manipulate reality with your feelings, you finally start working with it. You start seeing what needs to be fixed instead of who needs to be blamed. You stop living in fantasy and start living in purpose. You can feel tired. Reality still requires effort. You can feel offended. The truth still stands. You can feel overlooked. The work still needs to be done. You can feel deserving. The world still rewards value, not demand. Life don't skip steps for nobody. There's no shortcut, no emotional cheat code, no way to cry your way into a different result. If you didn't plant seeds, you don't get a harvest. If you didn't put in the reps, you don't get the strength. If you didn't build the habits, you don't get the lifestyle. That's reality. And it don't bend because your feelings get heavy. But here's the part people overlook. Reality isn't your enemy. It's your guide. It's not here to punish you. It's here to align you. It rewards those who respect it. It elevates those who work with it. When you stop fighting reality, you start growing. When you stop arguing with truth, you start evolving. When you stop reacting to everything emotionally, you start responding with direction. Feelings can inspire you, but they can't lead you. They can move you, but they can't define you. Use your feelings to understand yourself, not to rewrite reality. Use your emotions to motivate change, not to escape accountability. Use your pain as fuel, not as a shield from the truth, because at the end of the day, reality wins every time, not because it's cold, but because it's consistent, not because it's harsh, but because it's honest. And once you align with honesty, once you stand on truth, discipline, structure, responsibility, life becomes simpler. Not easier, but clearer. You stop expecting life to bend for you and start bending your habits to fit the life you want. That's where real growth happens. That's where real strength lives. That's where real change begins. Growth ain't something you stumble into. It ain't accidental, it ain't automatic, and it don't happen just because you're tired of where you are. Growth requires ownership, full, unfiltered, uncomfortable ownership, the kind where you stop pointing at everybody else and start looking dead at yourself, the kind where you stop blaming your past, your circumstances, or the people who didn't treat you right, and you start asking, what part did I play? What could I have done differently? What am I refusing to learn? Most people want a new life without becoming a new person. They want the blessing without the building. They want the elevation without the evolution. They want change without the challenge. But growth don't work like that. Life don't hand out upgrades to people who stay the same. You got to participate in your own progress. Ownership is the foundation. It's the point where you stop explaining the problem and start solving it. It's when you get honest about your habits, your patterns, your decisions, your distractions, and your mindset. That honesty stings at first, but it frees you. Because the moment you own your truth, you gain the power to change it. A lot of people run from ownership because it exposes them. It shows where they've been inconsistent, where they've been lazy, where they've been settling, where they've been sabotaging themselves. It's easier to blame someone else than to confront the part of you that's been avoiding the work. But every time you dodge accountability, you delay your growth. You put your future on pause to protect your ego in the moment. Growth requires you to admit that some of the pain in your life came from choices you made, not enemies you had. It requires admitting you stayed in situations you outgrew. You entertained people you should have walked away from. You made decisions based on emotion instead of discipline, and you ignored red flags because comfort felt easier than change. Once you own that, you stop repeating it. When you really take ownership, your language changes. You stop saying, they did this to me, and you start saying, I allowed this, I ignored this, I stayed here, I accepted this. And that shift, that's the beginning of transformation. Because if you created the situation through your choices, you can create a better one through new choices. Growth also demands responsibility for your energy. The way you talk to yourself, the habits you maintain, the people you keep around. You can't grow in environments built on chaos, negativity, or distraction. You got to curate your circle, protect your peace, and cut ties with anything that feeds the old you instead of the becoming you. And don't get it twisted. Ownership doesn't mean perfection. It means alignment. It means being aware enough to catch yourself slipping and disciplined enough to correct it. It means not letting your feelings dictate your destiny. It means not letting your excuses outweigh your efforts. It means prioritizing progress over pride. People who grow are people who take control, not control over others, control over themselves, control over their reactions, their discipline, their consistency, their time, their growth. They don't wait for inspiration. They operate from intention. They don't wait for motivation. They move from commitment. They don't wait for ideal conditions. They create their own momentum. Ownership also means letting go of the version of you that survived so you can build the version of you that succeeds. It means breaking your own cycles. It means acknowledging habits that no longer serve you. It means rewriting your mindset so you can rewrite your life. That's the work most people avoid because it requires them to outgrow who they've been. And outgrowing yourself is the toughest evolution there is. But once you embrace it, everything changes. Your confidence shifts. Your focus sharpens. Your purpose becomes clearer. Your life starts reflecting the person you're becoming instead of the person you were. Growth don't come from comfort. growth comes from ownership. The more responsible you become for your reality, the more power you gain to reshape it. The more you stop blaming, the more you start building. The more you own your truth, the more you unlock your future. And that's the real difference between staying stuck and leveling up. Some people wait for change, but the ones who grow, they take ownership and create it. True power ain't something you hold, it's something you give. A lot of people don't understand that. They think power comes from being in control, being admired, being served, being praised, being the loudest or the most celebrated in the room. But that's surface level power, the fragile kind, the kind that disappears the moment the applause stops. Real power comes from contribution, from what you add to the world, not what you take from it. When you contribute, you shift energy, you elevate spaces, you create opportunities, you leave people better than you found them. You build something that stands when you're not in the room. That's influence. That's legacy. That's real strength. A lot of people chase validation instead of value. They'd rather look important than be impactful. They want credit without contribution. They want recognition without responsibility. But power without contribution is empty. It's like holding a title with no achievements behind it. It looks good on the outside, but it holds no weight. Contribution is what gives your presence meaning. It's the difference between being noticed and being respected. People notice noise, but they respect impact. People remember those who add something real: wisdom, support, structure, love, knowledge, growth, vision. You don't gotta scream for attention when your actions already speak. And here's the truth: you can't be powerful if you're only focused on yourself. Self-centered energy is weak energy. When your whole world revolves around what you want, what you feel, what you expect, what you deserve, you shrink your capacity to influence, because real power expands outward. It multiplies, it creates, it serves, it builds. Contribution isn't about being perfect. It's about being useful. It's about asking, what can I add? What can I build? What can I teach? Who can I help? What can I improve? And when you move with that mindset, you become a force in any space you walk into. You become someone people trust, someone people look to, someone people rely on. That's power you can't fake. The strongest people in life are the ones who make others stronger, the ones who share information instead of hoarding it, the ones who uplift instead of compete, the ones who create opportunity instead of blocking it, the ones who lead by example instead of ego. Because when you contribute, you don't just build others, you build yourself, you sharpen your skills, you expand your understanding, you elevate your character, you strengthen your purpose. Contribution also brings clarity. When you're focused on giving and building, you stop stressing about petty things. You stop worrying about opinions that don't matter. You stop getting caught up in drama or envy or comparison. You start measuring your life by impact instead of attention. And that shift alone puts you in a different category. A lot of people think giving makes you weaker. But the opposite is true. When you pour into others, you tap into abundance. You tap into confidence. You tap into alignment. You start moving like someone who knows they're enough, someone who knows they're valuable, someone who knows what they bring to the table can't be taken away. Contribution is also the greatest test of character. Anybody can demand, anybody can complain, anybody can expect, but not everybody can give. Not everybody can show up consistently. Not everybody can put ego aside and do what's needed instead of what's easy. That's why real power is rare. It requires maturity, discipline, and purpose. When you contribute, you create momentum. You become part of something bigger. You stop living just for yourself and start living through purpose. And purpose is powerful because it outlives emotions. It outlasts seasons. It outshines fear. It keeps you grounded when life gets chaotic and focused, when distractions get loud. You want to see your life elevate? Start contributing. Start giving value in every room you enter. Start making your presence meaningful instead of demanding it be acknowledged. Start leaving people better, not bitter. Start building bridges instead of burning them. Start focusing on what you can add, not what you can take, because when your life becomes about contribution, you stop chasing power, and power starts following you. Real authority comes from impact. Real respect comes from service. Real influence comes from what you create, not what you demand. And at the end of the day, the world remembers builders. It remembers those who added something real. True power don't come from taking, it comes from contributing.